Good evening and welcome to Sweet Sounds Around Town. This our first edition. This is a replacement for the Cool House concerts because, as we know, we cannot have the Cool House concerts that we had last summer through the season up until the fall. And it was always such a great evening. Saturday nights, probably once a month, we would all gather in Van Nuys at JJ and Dolly's backyard. We'd have food, we'd socialize, we'd have live music. We'd all mingle with audience and musicians alike, and it was always a great experience. But now that we're on lockdown and we had planned this as a Cool House concert, we're rebranding and renaming it Sweet Sounds Around Town. And believe me, Sweet Sounds we have tonight. Two extraordinary musicians and singer-songwriters are joining us. So we are really opening the season with high quality. We've got Emily Zuzik and Ted Russell Kamp, so hang around for them. Both of them really extraordinary musicians, and we'll be having a chat with them also. I think we've been about 2 months on lockdown now, and I believe it's Saturday. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Saturday night. Sometimes it's harder to tell the nights from the days and the days from the weeks, but hopefully soon we'll be live. But my thanks to all the musicians that are still joining us and agreeing to do these Facebook Lives, and also to Dolly and JJ who are backstage. And I think I'd like to check in with Dolly and JJ actually, because they're over in that house, the Cool House that I refer to, where those concerts happen. And if you guys are there, why don't we just make sure you're there? I always like to do this just in case they sort of, throw the ball to me and then just leave and go out and hang out in their backyard. Oh, you are there. Okay, good. For a second, I thought I was talking about the Cool House in your wonderful backyard. And I thought, oh yeah, you went out to the back patio and just hung out in that beautiful environment. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well.
Yeah, we did that earlier.
Oh, you did? Okay, so you had the day out there?
Yeah, some of it.
And so this really was slated to be the first Cool House concert. We were going to have Emily and Ted live tonight. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just delighted. We're going to get them in any form we can. So I think this is going to be a fun show. And who knows? Hopefully, by the end of the summer, we may actually have a live Cool House concert.
I hope so. I hope so, because those are always we have so much fun doing it.
Yes, yeah. I've always loved attending those and being part of those and meeting the audiences and the musicians. And I know a lot of people that are tuning in are fans of the Cool House concerts, and we're all missing it. So. Yeah. So, well, thank you guys. I'm glad you're still there because honestly, when we do these, sometimes we do every Monday night, we do songs and sit downs. And I wonder when you head over to me, I never know if you're there or not.
So, no, we're running the gears behind the,
But rather than being in the cool backyard in this beautiful Southern California evening, you're stuck in your studio with hot computers and close proximity.
No, we're really excited about tonight. Seriously.
Good, as am I. Well, I think we'll move on. Thank you, guys. Just wanted to check in, as I said, to make sure you were there. And we may check in again with you later just to make sure you haven't left us.
No. We're here. All right.
Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
So we are streaming on Divine Rebel Music Facebook page, also on their YouTube channel. And I believe Emily and Ted may have it on their pages also. So do check those out. Now, as I said, this is Sweet Songs Around Town. It's replacing the Cool House concerts, and we'll be doing this for at least, I would imagine, a month. Maybe we'll possibly doing it the month after also, so stay tuned. So our first guest of the evening is a wonderful singer-songwriter, Emily Zuzik, and her music crosses several genres, including folk, soul, rock, country, blues, electronica, and folk. Just the whole gamut. And from all these genres, she's developed what they call basically her original signature style. And she's got her own brand of roots music. It's both urban and earthy. And we're going to give you a sample that's somewhat of a move from her genre, but it shows how eclectic this singer-songwriter and artist can be. So JJ, when you're ready, this is Alone.
I was looking out the window, checking to see if I heard your car drive by. Now the heartache keeps on crushing, I can't hear myself, I tell myself to try. Just try. Streets are darker, the dogs are barking, the freeways lit like streams of light by the moon. By streams, the light by the moon. When the light hits me, I feel a little better. I don't hear you talking in my head. Every day is an avalanche of memories. It could bury me, bury me, bury me before I'm dead. And I don't wanna be alone. I don't wanna be alone. I remember how you looked that night. I left my day to be the closest by your side, and then you said in front of everyone how you were gonna make me your bride. Oh, I died, a racing heart, and we let it start.
Wow, that was Alone, or at least part of Alone. Please welcome our special guest tonight, Emily Zuzik.
Hi.
Hi, Emily. I thought there was somewhat of a delay, and Dolly and JJ were playing tricks on us again.
No worries. I can handle, I can hang.
You can, you will go with the flow, as we have to in these times. You know, speaking of these times, when I hear a song called Alone, I'm like, was this prescient? Did you see this pandemic coming? Because
No,
we're
I was
not
actually
alone, but we are.
Video again. It's actually not even my story. It's my aunt and my uncle's story, that song. And I wrote it right after my uncle had passed, and they were together for like 60 years. And it's just weird because one of my the uncle that passed, older brother's wife died this week. So like I'm watching a lot of my older relatives who all have like a 15 to 20 year jump in advance of my dad's age. But I'm starting, to say goodbye. And they were lovebirds from the beginning. And she was also one of my closest aunts, the woman who the song is about. And so it was sort of like honoring that relationship.
And how beautiful that you immortalized her story, and for those that are passing on. But I guess it's a rite of passage. It's part of our lives that
life, baby.
The older generations, they start to go, and then you start to think, at least, I lost my dad, and I'm just like, I'm next. I'm looking around. I think I'm next in line, But how great as an artist that you're able to encapsulate that and put that down, and here it is forever, remembering your aunt's journey.
I hope. When you get used to writing a lot of your own stories, so if you can try to do someone else's story with grace and humility, then that's. I'd like to think that I did pretty okay with it, but that's for time to tell.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's an experimental EP, right?
Yeah, Tim and I had done a record about, let's see, Angelinos came out in 2016 or 2017. I think it was 2016. And we had done a record together in 2010 called Domestic Blitz. And I met Tim LaFave because he played bass on my record, You Had Me at Goodbye, which came out in 2006. So we met each other in the studio, clicked, started writing a bunch of these sort of songwriter pop electro songs together. And then when I was out here and he had already been out here, I reached out. I somehow came into a MIDI keyboard and started writing on the keyboard again. I was like, dude, I've got some songs. Do you want to do this? And so that's how Angelinos began.
Well, because I hear a lot of that electronica on there, with the arpeggiated keyboards. And then, of course, there's the gated reverb on the snare, which I think is coming back into vogue after all these years.
Could be. It could just be crazy Gary Novak too. I mean, he's
Yeah.
a monster on the kit, and
Yeah.
the three of us were consistent on all the tracks that were on that record. It was a really fun project to do.
Yeah, and it's a really good mix too. I mean, all the instruments come out and your voice over the top. Sometimes, you know, a lot of mixes I hear these days, the voice gets lost, but you're very prevalent there, which is great. And of course, Tim LaFave worked with Bowie, which brings me back to, I suppose, in the 70s when, what's that?
He was on the Black Star record.
Yes, that's right. My God. Yeah.
Yeah. Mark Juliana and gosh, Henry Hay, a bunch of these dudes. A lot of them also worked on Angelinos. Like Tim brought in his like Top Gun folk, and it was it's pretty amazing experience.
Well, I guess they say we're all links in a chain, you know, something inspires something else, and musicians go from one project. Because I think back to the 70s when Bowie did those great tracks with Brian Eno. That was kind of also,
well, I don't know if you picked up on it or not, but I sang alone with like that in mind.
I did not pick up on that.
But it was a lot more like a softer electro. I don't even know what band I would compare it to. But then I was like, you know what? Like, I always do that. Why don't I sing it like Bowie? And you know, I was like, I'm looking out the window. You know, like that sort of like, you know, Thin White Duke vibe. And then we were just like, yeah, that really takes it up a notch. Let's keep that. So that's
I guess unconsciously I did, because that's what came to mind. And also it's such a break from your style. And when he did those records with Brian Eno, it was such a break from the Bowie style too. Because I mean, he effectively started out as a folk singer and then changed the universe, you know, with all his characters, the Thin White Duke and Aladdin Sane and so on.
And the Thin White Duke and, you know, like, yeah, he's one up there. Like he's up there with like my top of artists to look up to, just because I like transformation, both as a songwriter and as a stylist in a way. Like I've had my hair every color under the rainbow, long, short, braided, you know, whatever. But it's fun to become different characters and bring a song, perhaps a new setting to experience.
Well, yeah, well, you can see it in your performance, and also if you look back in your discography and also in, you know, the videos that you've done and your performances and the different images, you can see that it'd be very hard to put you into one channel style. You know, you like the transformation and the becoming somebody else.
But you know, the industry is very into specification. So sometimes it's hard to explain what I do because it changes a lot. But you know, it is what it is. That's what I do. I can't just one thing. So,
and I see your strength when you're doing these songs, you know, your strength as a woman, which is in modern times, we're seeing that a lot more. Of course, back in the day, we never got a chance to see that, but your vulnerability, I got a chance to see that in the John Prine song you did the other night for the Roadhouse series.
That's a new thing. I mean, I can't say that being vulnerable in lyrics or songwriting is new, but for many, many years, it was also very much peppered with the rage, you know, and I think that's a natural human experience. When you're younger, you have a lot more of this, this rage and this anger when you feel vulnerable or you feel afraid, you feel like you have to rush against it. And the older you get, there's a little more distance, and there is, I mean, I hope most people go through this. I know in my own journey that like there's been a letting go and there's been a becoming okay with showing more of the cracks. And within that, there's something really intense and intimate that an audience and an artist can connect with. So, I mean, you know, who knows? It varies from performance to performance, but yeah, especially the John Prine song. That was, I always love that one. It's such a beautiful, broken song. Like the voice in the song is so fragile. And
I think it was Summer's End. Is that right?
I could touch a bit of that. And but people really liked it, so that makes me happy.
Oh yeah, and to see you just there at home, presumably, because we're all at home these days, but just with an acoustic guitar, and it's so easy and so simple. And again, it's stepping away from the multiple styles that we've already cited that you are known for. Well, Emily, I'm not going to keep you talking too long, but we'll get back after a couple of songs and we'll just check in with you.
Okay.
I'm going to hand it over to you, and we look forward to hearing you live here on Facebook.
Right on. Well, thanks
Thank
so
you.
much, Owen.
Thank you, Emily Zuzik.
Hi, world. You'll have to forgive me because I have my monitor here too, and I'm probably going to be going back and forth. So if it looks like I'm not looking at you, it's because I'm looking just slightly off. I'm going to play you some songs. This is a tune off my record, The Wild Joys of Living. It's called Motels. Sometimes I go to motels too late. Darkened bedrooms do me good. And all those dirty little things that folks do, I like secrets from the wood. I run them down. Oh yeah. Motels, motels. Sometimes I go to motels to think. Bitter silence keeps me there. I've got a lot on my mind since you came round. Got an axe to grind my head, so I'll burn it down. Oh yeah. Motels, motels. Sometimes I hear folks through the wall, lovers embrace. Lately I've been hearing one with the strangest trace of your voice. Sometimes I go to motels to screw. Others you've seen your share too. And all those dirty little things that I do, things I've done to you. You got around, you got around that thing. Motels, motels, you got around. Motels, you got around. Motels. Yeah, I like to start rocking. Thank you all. Let's see. I'll give a little intro to this song. Next one that's up. I just made a record with the man who's playing after this, Ted Russell Kamp. He produced my album Torch and Trouble, which is coming out in late August. And I'm actually releasing a second single off of it called All That Love. And it comes out not next Friday, but the following Friday, May 29th. And there's a music video, and I'm excited to share it with you all. So I'm going to play it for you tonight. Took bricks, mortar, and wood. Built high, the best that we could. When the wind pulled it down, how do you let go? Pull the double shift. Sweat so hard, it's trying to make it fit. Your back's about to break. You're holding on. But it comes down to this. I wanted more than you could give. Tried to catch you, but I missed. All that work for nothing. All that love to choose. All that love for nothing. All that love to lose. On paper we got it made. It was so crystal clear, now it's starting to fade. And if this house doesn't stand, what story to tell? That it came down to this. I wanted more than you could give. Tore it up to make it fit. All that love for nothing. All that love to choose. All that love for nothing. All that love to lose. You got sober with a shrug. Left me to kick the drug. And it's reckoning time for me. Oh, how you wrecked me. All that work for nothing. All that love to choose. All that love for nothing. All that to lose. So yeah, that's all I love. I'm going to do one more, and then we're going to break in Owen, I believe. I chose longer songs, so I figured 3 would be a good point to take a little breather and have some more chat time. This is an older one, but for anybody who's just joining us, it's brand new. It's one that was off my first studio record, You Had Me at Goodbye, which came out in 2006, which is a long time ago. It's called Breaking It Down. Stories all around, and this time are you going to top it? Cause I've seen your kind before. Keep me thinking you're out the door, just so you can be the one to decide it. Are you breaking it down? Are you taking the crown? Or do you have more to dish out so that I really drown? Are you breaking it down? Do it look like a clown? I am too smart to keep taking this, but for my help, I'll take it down. You see, I keep a little book. Helps me work through how I look and who I am and how I feel about it really. Because I'm kind of refined, I don't react to things, I'm blind, just so I can have a weapon to protect me. Are you breaking it down? Are you taking the crown? Or do you have more to dish out so that I really drown? Are you breaking it down? Am I sufficiently bound to your heartbreaking ways that your days move around? Are you breaking it down? Do it look like a clown? I am too smart to keep taking this, but for my how, I'll take it down. It's like the stars came out for the first time when we kissed, babe. Too bad the clouds of all our insecurities got in the way. Young, it's an excuse for the dumb. If it was the sort to run, I'd have fled to keep my dignity from tatters. But I'm scared to be alone. I'd rather cry and shout and moan, just to say I'd stood by what it really mattered. Are you breaking it down? Are you taking the crown? Or do you have more to dish out so that I really drown? Are you breaking it down? Am I sufficiently bound to your heartbreaking ways that your days move around? Are you breaking it down? Are you breaking it down? Oh, breaking it down, yeah, breaking it down. you take a mess, but for now, how I'll take it. This is going to be that set break. Oh, and come back. You need to have some water.
I didn't want to come back. I wanted you to keep going.
Well, I'm going to keep going, but.
Oh, good. Well, I won't keep you long, but I got to say, using the space for Facebook Live, this is a lesson to the rest of us who I literally sit in this spot with my guitar, and that's how I do my Facebook Lives, like this. So you have taught me, use the space, use the camera.
I just started standing. I've been sitting too, like I'm sitting on the floor or on pillows or on my back porch. But I think the standing thing helps because I'm a very physical performer. Like I dance a lot when I have a full band. I walk around. I understand this dynamic can work like an audience. And I'm sweating like crazy right now because I open my window and it's just like taking late day sun. Doing that, like just totally throwing myself into the performance. I'm gonna earn some more water pretty soon.
Yeah, well, it comes across, and you mentioned dynamic. The dynamics are there both in your vocal, but in your physicality, which is a lesson that I think I don't really rock out when I play. I play a lot of Irish music, so it's a little, you know, I play these sweet ballads sometimes as I sit here on my Facebook Live.
I didn't put many of those in my set tonight.
But I should try doing Danny Boy rocking. You know?
There's moments where you can be like very tender and the stillness is part of it. You know, but I guess I'm going for like my Freddie Mercury moment here in my little studio. So,
well, I guess it was the vulnerability we were talking about earlier, where you have that where you really rock it on, but then you pull it back, which is very apparent in your performance. I want to talk a little bit about that first song you did, Motels.
Okay.
Now, you got some dark lyrics in there, and I believe what I got from the song is at least the lead character, the protagonist, goes to motels and writes down the experiences in order to create songs. Would I be correct in that?
Yeah, and it's funny because I got that line from a friend of mine who, weirdly enough, in the whole cycle of life death thing, it was the 1-year anniversary of him passing this week. And I'd forgotten, and a mutual friend of ours from back east mentioned it because he was in a band with the guy. And Brian was one of these like larger than life characters who I don't know, at one point he used to host these sorts of house concerts in his place in Brooklyn too. And I played one of them, but he used to say like, sometimes I just go to hotels, I book a room and I write. And I was like, oh, that's a great line for a song. And I was running this songwriter meetup with a bunch of songwriters in New York at the time called What's in a Name. And so we would, get a word from someone and then run with it. And that week was motels. And it made me think of Brian's statement. And I was like, that's perfect to like open a story that's going to be really tawdry and dark, and motels already is going to be loaded, but
and certainly it is. Well, it's serendipitous that he gave you that line, and then that was the prompt for that weekend. I see a pattern here with your aunt and your friend Brian. Let me
I've had a lot of death in my life.
Don't write any songs about anything that I say today.
Since I was 12, lots of people, and I don't mean to make light of it, but it does color your world experience.
Yes, it does.
I see things probably differently than people who haven't had that experience, and I can't not write from it. So,
well, it's part of your growth too, as you said, getting older, and maybe the anger dissipates, and you start to see life as a more rounded thing, and then that informs your songwriting. But also the video, because I watched the video. It's online. Check the video out, and not you, Emily. Everybody watching, check the video out because it is so entertaining, and it shows really that dark side of life. You've got. Well, I don't want to say everything about it, but I mean, there's the pills, there's the alcohol, there's
playing a lot of characters. I'll put it that way. To imagine a bunch of people. You think of the word motel and like what comes to mind. It's not fancy.
Yeah, certainly not an ad for motels.com.
And who are those people? And we tried to play with that a little bit in the video. It's fun.
Yeah, because the video is very entertaining, and I see there's an apparition of you outside. Is that you within the ghostly form?
I'm all those characters.
Oh, wow.
I just brought all my wigs and all my costumes, and we took over this crazy place, up in upstate New York, and just a night and a half and banged it out. And my friend Drew and Eric, they came up and we made a video real fast.
Wow.
And
Well,
they've got great cameras, so like it looks awesome. So
yeah, it looks good. It looks like you took a lot longer than Fast and Dirty, although Fast and Dirty would be good adjectives to put with the video and the song.
Exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
I also wanted to talk about you've co-wrote with a number of people, including Dan Navarro, who's always doing interesting things. Every time I hear of Dan or I see Dan doing performance, he's always got something going on.
Dan's a very busy guy. Yeah,
Was
I didn't used to co-write a lot.
Mhm.
And then at some point, I don't know, it happened in New York. I think it probably started with Tim, but I started co-writing with people like, Tim LaFave, and there were some other folks who are like more known as like instrumental people and do music on the backside. I've done a lot of co-writing with Art Hayes for TV and film, written with Ted, written with Grant Langston out here, Jeff Perlman, Rich, and I'm so terrible. I'm blanking on Rich's last name, but probably because we didn't totally finish the song. And Dan Navarro.
So there's no need to finish his name if you didn't finish the song. And of course, Moby. I'm not going to let you leave Moby off of this because
and Moby.
Yeah, and that great track that you guys came up with from his album. Which was the album that song
was called Destroyed, and the song was called The Low Hum. And it was the first track he sent me to write to that ended up being the only one that we ended up finishing. But it was funny because I was moving into a new place in Murray Hill, in a neighborhood of New York at the time. And it was a night where I went up to the apartment after I'd signed the lease, but nothing was in it except for a strand of Christmas lights I hung on the window.
I've been there.
Right near Bellevue Hospital. So there's all that industrial hospital noise.
Oh, yeah.
And just sort of, it was the spark. So.
And are those the Christmas lights behind you that you're referring to?
Yes. Well, no, not these ones. The ones that I had there were from IKEA, and they're long gone. But
okay, I wondered if you brought it with you.
The Christmas lights that are referenced in the song were my Christmas lights on my new apartment window. So
interesting. So a co-write with Moby. Did you write most of the lyrics in that case? And
yeah, I think we only made like one or two word substitutions. It's mostly my lyrics and my top line melody.
Yeah, which is apt because you sang the song, and it's certainly in your style over his style of electronica.
Yeah, when you're given a composition that's electronic like that, it makes you think about how you would bring the melody differently. Like I would never write that melody necessarily for a song I'm writing on guitar. Or there's stuff I'll write on piano, which gets really beatly and it's kind of super pop with the melody and the counter melodies and the harmonies, and I would never write that necessarily for a guitar or for an electronic track. So they all bring their own character. That
right. So I guess it puts you into a different place.
What's that?
I guess it puts you into a different place when you're writing for electronic music or you're writing on the piano. It brings you to a different. So I mean, I think John Lennon used to say that he used to write a lot on the piano, so he wouldn't fall into the same traps that he fell into on the guitar.
You go to different chords. You get used to routines on the guitar. I mean, I always used a capo for that reason, to change up the keys, because I'm like, I'm doing the same chord changes, but if they're on a capo 4, they sound different, But
yeah,
piano, it's totally different because you're thinking about using your hands differently.
And you got no capo. They need to invent a capo for the piano. That's what they need. If they had a capo, I'd be much better with a capo. Like
that's the note you're going to land on and see what happens,
Yeah, but that's so interesting. I mean, it's inspiring for songwriters to hear that, because we do fall into the same traps, and those of us that are just playing on one instrument almost all the time. I mean, we'll talk a bit later to Ted Russell Kamp about this, because he has so many instruments in his studio, and he's multi-instrumental. I'm sure, we can continue this further with him. And so before we start again, I've got to do some housekeeping. Okay. And Emily, take a drink of water while I do this. You don't need to hear these. So Emily Zuzik and Ted Russell Kamp are our guest artists tonight, and they are top caliber. As you can see thus far, Emily is rocking the house, as will Ted. And we have a tip jar. So when we do these Cool House concerts out in Van Nuys, there's basically the charge of the door. People pay. That's how we pay the artists. But this time we're just doing it with virtual tips. So if you can afford to put something in there, that would be fantastic. If you can't, that's absolutely fine. No, it's not. I shouldn't say that because the artists are listening. We're most happy to have you with us. Thank you for tuning in, and you will find in the comments the link to the chips are. So that's out of the way. I asked Emily to take a drink of water, but she's taking a drink of wine. That's
I had
even
both.
more.
I have a pint glass of water here. If you don't believe me, it's right here.
Okay.
I can't just drink wine and expect to get through all those rock songs. No, I'll sound like a frog by the end of the set.
Well, I'm very disappointed in you for taking water when you have wine right there in front of you. So,
I don't know if you know this about me, but I have a little blog called Rose Live Videos by Emily Zuzik, which I haven't really been keeping up with because it's usually a summertime blog on Facebook. But that's why I have to have the rosé here, because I have to represent.
Oh, well, that's perfect. Yeah, you couldn't do your blog without the rosé, and you couldn't represent your blog without actually taking a drink of it right now. I completely understand. But we'll look out for that. So that's going to come back. You've taken a little break from it, but that's going to come back pretty soon over the summer.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is this. It started off as like having rosé and just talking off the cuff. And given the times we're in, I don't know how much people want that, but maybe they do. Maybe they want it more now. Like just going into what's going on in your life, how you feeling about it. You know, are you having a rough week? This blah, blah, blah. You know, maybe it's the perfect time to bring it back. But I just don't drink rosé in the cold months. So I have to wait till it gets warmer, but it's warmer now. And maybe this is the time to bust out a video journal. So.
Well, it's a good idea. And we'll talk a little more before you go tonight, because, you know, we have a few more things that we'd like to hear from you before the night is out.
And we can come back. And they're both new. They're
right.
They weren't necessarily written like in the last week, but they're both going to be coming out on my new record, Torch and Trouble, which Ted produced. And and I'll just kick it off with that.
Thank you, Emily Zuzik.
This is a song called Get It Right. My dog just joined the program. I cannot tell the difference between the moon and your eyes, because they both draw me in, and they both mesmerize me. I cannot see the way you smile as being any less than righteous. I'm gratefully yours. And it's finally time that we both get it right. Get it right. Right now. I'll bet the gods are busy. They broke the mold with you, and I'd put my money down on whatever horse you choose. I've seen a lot around this world, and I don't make these statements lightly. I'm gratefully yours. And it's finally time that we both get it right. Get it right. Said it's finally time that we both get it right. Get it right now. Some time that we both get it right. Get it right. Said it's finally time that we both get it right. Get it right. Now it's finally time that we both get it right. Get it right. Now. Get it right. Yeah, get it right. Get it right now. I'm going to tune up really quickly, and then I'm going to play my last song. It's one it's a slow burner. I really love this song, and it's kind of epic. It's definitely what you would call a last song on a record. I think that's a good thing. There we go. All right. It's called The Band Played On. Been down all these country roads before. They all lead me right back to your door. Yeah, I'm gonna get right. Send a stage and name every night. And the band played on, riding down another heartbreak song. My it's lonesome when the crowd sings along. You're not there when the band played on. Remembering the way you held your gaze, squinted eye and cowboy mouth, the turn of a phrase. Never met a poet of your kind. I hope that I might sometimes cross your mind. And the band played on, let you go and watch you fly. And the band played on. Finding out another heartbreak song. I'm by it slow and I sing along. You're not there when the band played on. No, you're not there when the band played on. No, you're not there.
Wow, thank you, Emily.
You're welcome.
Two beautiful songs from the upcoming album, Torch and Trouble. And I know that's coming out soon. Do we have a release date yet?
It's actually coming out on August 28th, so at the end of the summer.
Okay, great.
It came out in May, actually this weekend, but I pushed it and then decided to put out a second single beforehand, just to kind of buy us some time with this whole global pandemic thing and try to figure it out.
So Torch and Trouble to be released August 28th. Is there going to be a release concert?
I hope so, but it is as yet unbooked, mainly because we're waiting to see if there's going to be gatherings.
Yeah.
There probably won't be. So I'm sure I'll do something online to celebrate it more than just the Saturday Night live stream. And
we'll certainly mark it on this end too. We'll certainly mark it on this end in one of our shows and give you a plug. Great couple of songs. We're going to have to move on, unfortunately, Emily. I would love to talk to you all night.
That is about to grace your virtual stage. I say not only because I get the privilege to work with him, and I'm just sad that this is a virtual thing because I sing with him a lot too, and we've written songs together, and so it's kind of a bummer that I can't get to do the shared TED live thing. But
of course, he produced your album, Torch and Trouble. And we're going to close your set out now with actually playing a video from one of the songs from your upcoming album, which we're very much looking forward to hearing your album and the video we're about to play. And thank you so much, Emily Zuzik. Check Emily Zuzik out on emilyzuzik.com.
Jacques.
Yes, Jacques. And Saturday Night Live, that's what Emily is doing, a Saturday Night Live stream at 6 p.m. every Saturday. Is that right?
Yes, that's from my music page, which is facebook.com/emily.zuzik.music.
Great. So we will check that out. And we're going to finish now Emily's set by showing one of her wonderful videos. You're really going to enjoy this. This is called Trouble. Thank you so much, Emily Zuzik.
Thank you.
Hi. Today, we're going to make some sweets. The good and the bad. See the way your hair gets away in the wind. Across your face and out of place again. Can't get it off my mind. Coming closer, what am I to find? Don't feed me that line. Your game's as good as mine. It's never gonna be straight up, you know. Something's gotta give, something's gotta change. And you know it, I can't find my way out of this situation. And I don't mind living in complication. easy, wouldn't you walk away? This mystery I see just fills me in more every day. And this ain't no puzzle you could crack, a monkey on your back. Just you and me, baby, trying to find a way. I'll feed you the lines, but I won't leave you behind. It's never gonna be straight up, you know it. Someone's gotta give, someone's gotta change. And you know it, I can't find my way out of this situation. And I don't mind little bit of complication. Baby, I like trouble. Don't feed me that line. Your game's as good as mine. It's never gonna be straight up, you know it. Someone's gotta give, someone's gotta change. And you know it, I can't find my way out of this situation. Yeah, I don't mind little bit of complication. You want it easy? Me, I like struggle. I guess struggle just a tool now. I'm not asking. 'Cause baby, I like trouble.
Emily Zuzik, Trouble. Wow, what a great video. What a great song. Produced by Ted Russell Kamp, who is our next guest. Thank you so much, Emily Zuzik. What a wonderful guest. What a wonderful musician. And we hope to see her a lot in the future, outperforming live when we all get back to that. So Ted Russell Kamp, our next guest, he's not only a singer-songwriter and producer, he's also a Grammy-winning bass player. When he's not writing or recording or traveling the world with other performers, he's performing his own music, country, roots, Americana style, from his, you ready for this? 11 critically acclaimed albums. That's right, 11. Here now is Russell Ted Kamp. Ted Russell Kamp.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Ted. How are you?
Very good. Very
Good. I mixed your names around there to make sure you were listening.
I was, and that's okay. It's definitely. I've had worse. I've had misspelled. Some people they hyphenate them. Or
Good.
they think Russell in Germany, for
Yeah.
some reason, Russell Camp feels like it could be a word.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Now, did you choose to insert your middle name, or did you grow up with those two names?
I kind of chose to insert it after I was playing for a while. Like it was already there, but
Yeah.
But I thought there's a great tradition of John Paul Jones and Tony Joe White and Ray Wiley Hubbard and all these other people with cool three names, and I was kind of getting tired of just Ted Camp.
Right, because
It's
maybe
too
it's just
short.
hard. It's
It
like,
goes
what
by,
did
they're
you just say? Did you swear at me? What did you just say? So Ted Russell Kamp befits a Grammy winner, might I say, and congratulations on your recent Grammy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, do you display it in the house or do you have it there in the den?
It's actually still in the package it came in.
Yeah, you
I'm
a
gonna
lot of thought to it.
display it at some point. I promise.
Okay. Wow.
But
Well,
I know where it is, and when I need a little hit of self-esteem, I go in and look at it.
But right now you don't need that because you're so busy. You're recording your own material, right? And you're also producing records.
Yeah. I am. I love music, and it was my hobby before it became my job.
Mhm.
And it's a pleasure, and it's an inspiring thing. And actually working with people like Emily and pretty much everyone who was in her video, they're all
Mhm.
friends of mine, and we all play together or have played together or been in different bands together. So it's
And
pretty
how,
great how are your my social network is my professional network and the people I'm inspired to play with. So yeah, staying busy is a good thing, and it promotes sanity and happiness for me.
and you obviously belong in that profession. So was bass your first instrument growing up, or did you
It
have
was
a few
trumpet.
others?
It was trumpet in
Trumpet. Okay.
in my school district. I grew up in New York, and
Hmm.
everyone had to start either doing trumpet, like be band or orchestra or chorus in the fourth grade. So I
Hmm.
started playing trumpet, and I loved it. I got really into it, and then when I was in high school, I got a bass guitar, and then I eased into the world of rock and roll and jazz and everything else.
But you kept up trumpet,
Yeah.
and you might not know how I know this. And Ted, we're going to right off the bat, we're just going to embarrass you, my friend, and we're
Okay.
going to put up a little photo of you playing trumpet with none other than Neil Diamond. That is you on stage with Neil Diamond. That okay? I got to ask you this. Did you get to play the da da da?
Of course I did.
Oh my
Of course
God,
I did.
iconic! Because
And
it's
I have good news and bad news, and something that's really wonderful about this photo.
uh-huh.
That Neil Diamond
Hmm.
is actually Charlie Overby, who's a kind of rootsy rock singer songwriter, and he had a Neil Diamond tribute show
Oh,
for a
okay.
while. So we were doing all the Neil Diamond songs, but
Yes.
that's all LA people, many friends. It
Yeah.
looks like the guy on the left here, our guitarist, is wearing a mask. That's not
Yeah.
a social distancing thing. That's just the lighting of that show.
Oh,
But,
okay. It's not that he just usually wears a mask, but of course, like Neil Diamond songs. I mean, as much as we love them, and some people hate them, they're showstoppers. There's so many showstoppers. You must have just rocked the house every night with those songs.
it was wonderful. It was really great. Like I was never a huge Neil Diamond fan,
Hmm.
but then when I started learning the music to play with the band, uh, there are like maybe 15 major
Hmm.
hits that are kind of, aside from, Sweet Caroline and Forever, like the list goes on and on. And then also, here's another good one. I
Hmm.
joined that band playing trumpet, and then after a while, the bass player couldn't do it.
Hmm.
And so the singer, Charlie, was like, man, I got to find a bass player. I don't know what to do. And I was like, my main instrument is actually bass.
So you
He
didn't
said,
know
are
to
you
play
kidding me?
bass.
So I switched over to bass. And then I had to learn, how a lot of Neil Diamond's band on most of those records was the Wrecking Crew. They were mostly done in LA.
Hmm.
And so I got to learn all these great Carol Kay bass parts. Carol Kay and Hal Blaine and all those guys. I think Leon Russell even played on some. So it was wonderful. It was a great education, and I got into the music, and it was a great group of people too.
Yeah, and he's got such a great front line too. I mean, Neil loves the brass. So to start off as a trumpet player and then go in as bass, I feel like we should take this photo off the screen and oh yes, yeah, you see, I can see you much better now. So you're in the Den now, the famous Den, because your new album that's coming up is going to be called Down in the Den. Is that right?
Correct.
And
About 80% of it was recorded in this room.
wow. And that's a keyboard behind you. Is that a Moog?
I got another one over there, a Nord.
Mm-hmm.
Got my acoustic bass. I got a bunch of guitars.
Mm-hmm.
Behind me, you see the little glass doors.
I
It's
do.
kind of an ISO booth back there, so we can fit a drum kit in there sometimes.
Wow.
Sometimes we can do some kind of strings or vocal overdubs in there while I'm staring at my computer screen. And so this is where I kind of do the engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great. I've done a lot of records here, and actually Emily's. It's really great to kind of share the bill tonight with Emily, because she's a good friend and deeply talented and
great performer. And the album that you produced of hers is coming out in August, so we're all looking forward to that for sure. So when you set up, so you're an engineer also, so you mic the drums in that isolation booth yourself?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
because
I mean, there are other engineers who are better than who are, of course, like have been doing it their whole life. I'm I think my strengths as a producer have to do more with the songwriting and the arranging, being a band member and coaching, like, and going for the mood. But I'm good. I'm good at getting good tones out of the mics and preamps and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, everything I've heard of yours has really been well produced and well recorded. So, and so speaking of arranging and writing, you did a lot of arranging recently and some co-writing on was it Tanya Tucker's album, the one that just recently won the Grammy?
Yeah.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Well, that was amazing.
Mhm.
The Brandy Carlisle and Shooter Jennings co-produced it, and I've been playing with Shooter off and on for 15 years. We've made a lot of music together and recorded a lot. So I was in the band. It was Shooter, played a lot of piano. Brandy and her regular band. She works with these two super talented and wonderfully sweet guys, twin brothers, Tim and Phil, and their drummer Chris. And then a great Chris and Eleanor Masterson were in the band.
Wow.
And so we just kind of holed up in Sunset Sound in LA for about 2 weeks and worked on the songs. Brandy and Shooter had kind of worked out pretty much what the album would be. Tanya brought in a couple songs. Brandy, Tim, and Phil wrote most of the album. And they really did an incredible job of kind of like literally researching Tanya Tucker's life and writing songs as if she was a singer-songwriter singing about her own life.
Well, what a great idea, because then she can personalize it and the stories that come from her life going into the songs. And I guess that's what makes it stand out. And as we were talking about earlier with Emily, just personalizing and writing from your own life and the people that you know, it reads. I mean, it really reads better than just finding something off the street or, I mean, I'm sure.
Great song. Let's do it.
Yeah. And I'm sure it was tempting to just do some country standards and throw them on there too, but
yeah,
that's not what's going to get you anywhere, right? You're not creating anything new in that case.
It was a really powerful, it was a beautiful experience. And it was like one of the best recording sessions I've ever been a part of. So it was, so the fact that it could then later get acclaim and get the risk, because when you make music a lot, and I said I should maybe be this in the first person. When I make music for a living, I make a lot of music I'm really passionate about with a lot of really talented people. And it's a somewhat common feeling when you put some record out or work with a team to put some record, and you're like, how come the rest of the world doesn't understand how incredible this is? And we like, I completely believe in what we just did. And now you're struggling with publicists and, if you had a better story and and radio and all that stuff. It's, part of the challenge is to make the great music and then get it out into the world, But it was pretty amazing to have a record that we all really believed in that deeply. And then, coincidentally, not really coincidentally, but like Brandy had just won some Grammys, and it was Tanya's first album of new music in over a decade.
Wow.
So it's like the world was ready for it. It was the right time for it. And of course everyone just played great. And Tanya, I mean,
when you're talking about like world-class musicians, and when you're in the room with Shooter Jennings and Brandy Carlisle and yourself and the like of the other musicians that you mentioned, and of course you and Shooter have been working together a long time, so you probably just feed off each other really well.
Yeah, we understand each other well, and when he there's us.
That's you and Shooter right there, yeah.
And that would have been maybe the Jay Leno show.
Oh, I think it's Letterman.
That's Letterman. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I've been playing with Shooter off and on for 15 years. He's a great guy, talented guy, and we've recorded a lot of music together.
So you've been with him basically from the start, because I guess his first album came out in 2005.
Yes. I'm
in my head there. I subtracted 15 and I got that number. I'm a genius. 15 from 20. That's as much math as I can do now. So don't give me anything more difficult.
Yeah. And in fact, it was 15 years. That record came out 15 years ago, and a couple months ago. I think it came out in February of 2005.
And again, you had to really make that record his own, because I know the title, I guess the title track was Put the O Back in Country. Is that right?
That was the name of the title. Yeah.
Which is adapted from a Neil Young song. So your arrangements really would have to, am I right in saying that Neil Young? Yeah. So your arrangements really have to give it that style.
Yeah, that was a Neil Young song that Shooter took some of the lyrics and then wrote new verses and stuff like that. But it was heavily inspired by that Neil Young song.
Wow. Well, I'm not going to hold you up too much longer because I want to give you time to open the Grammy a little bit later.
Okay.
You should do that on a Facebook Live. We should get you back, actually. And all right. Now we got Ted opening his Grammy, so we can all see it at the same time. All right, buddy. Well, I'm going to let you get to playing us some songs. We're very much looking forward to your performance. Ted Russell Kamp.
All right. I'm going to start with a song called Life on the River. Water washes over the rocks today, carrying a piece of the past away. Oh, watch that river flow. Everything that happens is just forget. Put it in a bottle and close the lid. And let it roll on the river. So make love to me tonight. Whatever's wrong, gonna make it right. Keep me there till the morning light, like hallelujah. And be my baby all night long. I wanna feel you coming on strong. And the river goes on and on, pulls me to you. Let it wash right through you. Waves rolling like a million seas, round and the stones more every year. Oh, the currents push and pull. I walked along the water's edge, played it safe and jumped off the ledge. I lived my life on the river. So make love to me tonight. Whatever's wrong, gonna make it right. Keep me there till the morning light, like hallelujah. And be my baby all night long. I wanna feel me on strong. And the river rolls on and on, pulls me to you. Let it wash right through you. Skin like a piano, hearts are like a leather. Our little one is, but we fit so good together. No forever is only now. So make love to me tonight. Whatever's wrong, gonna make it right. Keep me there till the morning light, like hallelujah. And be my baby all night long. I wanna feel you coming on strong. And the river rolls on and on, pulls me to you. Let it wash right through you. Now the waves rolling like a million tears, round and the stones more every year. Watch that river flow. All right. Hey, thank you. I want to thank Owen for hosting And JJ and Dolly for having us and putting this all together. And thank you all for watching. I'm going to do a song now from my newest record. It came out about a year ago, a little over a year ago. The record is called Walking Shoes. And this one is called Paid by the Mile. If I had a dime for every line on my face, I'd buy around for every single fool in this place. And I'd give you my 2 cents, tell you all that I've been through. You can take it, you can leave it, you can tell me what to do. But I'll take my time, and I'd go in style if I only got paid by the mile. Oh, if I had a nickel for every song I tried to write, I could have checked you every underdog you stayed in the fight. Cause the one thing that I know is I'm still hungry every night. You ain't done till it's over, you ain't over till it's right. I'll take my time, and I go in style if I only got paid by the mile. For every night and every show and every dream that comes and goes, for every trouble I just smile. If I only got paid by the mile, if I only got paid by the mile. If I had a silver dollar, every palm I had to grease, each fool I met, each drop of sweat, each missing puzzle piece, I give it to the working man who's a living day to day. When you're in this one together, you got to stop and say, I'll take my time, and I'd go in style if I only got paid by the mile. I'll take my time, and I'd go in style if I only got paid by the mile. I'll take my time, and I'd go in style. If I only got paid by the mile. If I only got paid by the mile. If I only got paid by the mile. Thank you. All right. So that was I did the Walking Shoes record last year. I think I'll do another song from that album. Here, I'll move this down so you can see the bass a little better. There you go. All right, so this, my friends, is a bass guitar. And this song is called Highway Whisper. When the lights finally go down on this town, and the quiet of the night is the only friend you found. And if you listen, you can hear it in the distance, that highway whisper all around. Now the cars, they don't know just where they're going, and the stars don't need to know they light the way. Well, no river ever cares just where she's flowing. If she makes it there someday. Well, highway whisper just enough to bring me home. And highway whisper everything I wish I'd known. When there's no one else around to hear that lonesome sound. Whisper so I know I'm not alone. Have you seen the moon crawl across the sky? And have you heard the traffic hum as the hours roll by? Well, I'm not asking you for much, just a horizon and a touch of a whole lullaby. Well, a highway whisper just enough to bring me home. And highway whisper everything I wish I'd known. When there's no one else around to hear that lonesome sound. Whisper so I know I'm not alone. Won't you whisper so I know I'm not alone? Well, highway whisper just enough to bring me home. The highway whisper everything I wish I'd known. When there's no one else around to hear that lonesome sound. A whisper so I know I'm not alone. Won't you whisper so I know I'm not alone? Great. Well, thank you. So that one was Highway Whisper. And I wrote it when I first, I mentioned before playing trumpet in New York as a kid. Then I, after college, moved to Seattle. And that's where I kind of started taking every gig I possibly could and try to become a professional musician. So it happened pretty quickly. But they weren't all as glamorous gigs as they maybe later become, as we just saw on the screen, you know. So that's a song I wrote about kind of wishing and dreaming, staying up late at night and looking out the window after my gig, and dreaming about where the highway would take me and the talented people I would meet and the music I would hopefully make, which later led me to Los Angeles, and then what I've been up to since then. So now I'm going to switch over and do a song that will be on the next record, Down in the Den, which is going to come out in July. Most likely, I think it's July 23rd, 24th, 25th. Still working out with my the radio person and the publicist and all that stuff. But it's going to be July, and I'm excited to be doing some of this music now. This is one of the first songs for this next record that I've written. So some of you may have heard this one already. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I haven't seen that album cover, except living on my computer. So there you go. And actually, the woman who took that album photo, Carmen, is one of the people viewing. So Carmen, thank you. If you want some a wonderful friend and a wonderful photographer. Check out Carmen Christian. Every little thing you need. If you got any fans of soul music, this one's for you. Every little thing you need, you know I got it. And every little thing you see under the sun, I know it might be crazy. Ever since you called me baby, for every little sound you need, baby, I'm the one. And every little thing you say, you know I'm listening. And every little word I hear it loud and clear. I know it might be crazy, ever since you called me baby, but every little sound is music to my ears. Oh, every little thing you need, every little thing you need, every little thing, and oh, for every little thing you need, every little thing you need. All you got to do is call me up and tell me about how every little wish you wish. You got to tell me. And every little hope, I hope you understand. 'Cause you've been making my dreams come true. I gotta do the same thing for you. For every little thing you need, honey, I'm your man. Oh, every little thing you need, and every little thing you need, every little thing, and oh, every little thing you need, oh, every little thing you need. All you got to do is call me up and tell me about how every little wish you wish. You got to tell me. And every little hope, I hope you understand. 'Cause you're making my dreams come true. I gotta do the same thing for you. Whatever little thing you need, honey, I'm your man. You're making my dream come true. I like to do the same thing for you. Whatever little thing I need, oh, I'm your man. But I'm your man. You know I'm your man. I'm your man. I'm your man. Nice.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you, Ted. You know what's funny? I had a thought there. I kind of forgot I was in the show because I was kind of grooving along to that. And I was like, man, I should just go get myself a glass of whiskey. And then I thought, I don't think I have time to go all the way in there, get a whiskey and come back. Suddenly there's an empty seat. You know, it's a bold move for a bass player to just do vocal and bass. And not many people can pull it off because I've seen that before. And if you're not an adept bass player and you don't have that rhythmic stuff that you're going on there where you're slapping the body at the same time. Do you do in a lot of your performances when you're doing your own live work of your own material, do you often do it with just bass?
Yes, I do. I've
Wow.
done not many. I've done a few shows that were just bass and singing.
Wow.
But I find that it's better when like when I do a solo show, like some of these Facebook Live ones I'm doing weekly, and like when I tour around, I'll usually start with the acoustic guitar, do a few songs, then switch to the bass. And I'll usually kind of go back and forth. I find like 2 or 3 on each instrument, and then I can kind of change the subject and the mood. is a nice thing.
And it gives it a nice variety too. Do you sometimes write on the bass or generally guitar? What is your preference? Because I know Emily and I were talking about that earlier.
Mostly guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have written some songs on bass, some piano. In fact, the last song, and in fact, I think there's one or two others on this new record. For a while, I was trying to write with no instrument, and I actually was like, I'd be touring around, and I, have 3 or 4 hours to kill while you're driving to the next city, and so I would just say, I don't, I forget how I started. What got me into this? Maybe it was like talking to maybe I had whatever. But anyway, I was feeling like a lot more music gets more complex than it needs to be.
Right.
And
So if
kind
you
of a
write a simple melody and words, and then you work out what chords you're going to put with it afterwards, sometimes that's an easier approach.
So I came up with that bass part, and I was kind of loosely inspired by "Son of a Preacher Man," and this kind of moody, laid back soul. And I was like, I'm just gonna not even pick up an instrument and try to not even write it down until I've memorized it.
Wow.
So I came up with that bass, and I knew that would be the counterpoint thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to be like solo bass and vocals yet, but that riff,
right,
was one of the first things. And I remember kind of like, wow, that's a cool riff. Did I directly rip that off from some soul tune? But I kind of looked around and went back into my memory banks, and I didn't find a soul tune that had exact. I mean, it's definitely in the style of classic Motown or Muscle Shoals, but
right.
I couldn't find a song that I stole that bass riff from.
Yeah, and of course, it's always the fear.
It's always the fear.
You could research forever to try to find out, where did I find this? And then it's like, how can this be from my head? It's so good and it works so well.
Well, thank you. But
so
then,
may you never come across an album with that riff on it that's not your own.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all borrow, and sometimes it's accidental, and sometimes it's an homage, and sometimes it's totally in the style of some music you already love. I mean, you don't steal, but have it be an inspiration,
Right, and whether we know it or not, like everything's been done in some form or other, and so we're always exploring and discovering new things. But I'm sure if you went through the annals of time of everything that's been recorded over the last 50 to 100 years, there'd be something that'd be like, aha, I see that melody line or that riff. And as you said, Motown too, they cover their bases with a lot of that stuff. So I wanted to ask you about that song.
You and Emily were talking earlier about David Bowie, and I'm not gonna quote him exactly because I know I'd get it wrong, but he kind of fairly famously said, it's never the first guy that does it, it's the second guy that does it who has better marketing. Or he had some great quote like that.
Wow.
And so he kind of came clean. It was like, I'm not inventing any of this. I mean, he had a ton of soul and a ton of style.
That's
right.
He
was just like, what a wonderful artist. But he was like,
oh my God, yes.
And I'm just combining.
And
even someone as visionary as that admits to borrowing,
Well, Young American is an example of an album where he took that American soul style and made it his own. He came in and he added to that. And as you say, a visionary artist, as they said, always 2 steps ahead of the crowd. But maybe the crowd didn't have quite the publicity that he had.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about Highway Whisper, that song.
Great. Sure.
Now, it sounds like, just from what your introduction of it or what you said about it, it may have been written a long time ago when you were looking to your future as a musician. Is that right?
Yeah. I was probably. Well, I wrote the song much more recently. That was the last song that I finished. Like, I was actually finishing up the album down in the den, and I knew I wanted to have a solo bass song because I've been doing it more and more in my live shows, and it's kind of it's a powerful and intimate moment, and I knew I wanted to have the right song to do it. Oh no, I'm sorry. That was on my last record, which is Walking Shoes, but the album was almost completely done. I had a couple more days before I was finishing mixing. And so I revisited these old lyrics and kind of reworked on them and came up with that bass approach to it. And I was like, okay, this just needs to be on this record. And I just worked on it for about a week, and then it was ready to go.
Well, I guess the problem with having 11 studio albums is like you can't remember what's where. How could you possibly? Because
It's also, yeah, I was also working on Walking Shoes and Down in the Den at the same time. Like Down in the Den has some older stuff, and Walking Shoes, whatever. So they're the time frame is whatever, but it was on the last one.
Yeah, the visual and just the pathos in that song of, as you say, what's going to happen in the future. I could see you smoking a cigarette on a balcony with Tom Waits, just looking out into this highway that may or may not hold your future, really beautiful. And now bass being your instrument of choice, or I suppose your main instrument, even though you're multi-instrumentalist, when you're mixing songs, and I've come across this before, and I want to ask you, are you ever guilty of this? Do you tend to like turn the bass up just ever so slightly so that it's punchier compared to the other instruments?
I sometimes, but sometimes I'm guilty of deliberately having too little bass, because I don't want the bass I don't want it to be about the bass.
Right.
I want it to be about the songs and the overall energy. I mean,
And
definitely you can pump it up, and it adds some emotional oomph, But I because I kind of hear music from the perspective of the bass so much, I don't want to have it take over. I want it to be part of the team of instruments.
So I guess you need objectivity. And do you have somebody else mix your albums, or do you also mix your albums?
Usually what I do is I've got a good buddy named Mark Rains, who I actually met years ago doing the early Shooter Jennings stuff. But I've worked with this guy, Mark. He's got a great studio in Echo Park called the Station House. And so sometimes we sit there together and we mix the album together. Sometimes he will mix and then send me mixes. And then I will make comments of, oh, the snare drum is a little too this, or let's turn the Wurlitzer up, or the harmony vocal should be louder on this one and make it feel more like a duet, or let's EQ it differently, or whatever, different kind of slapback reverb or whatever, And so we'll send, he'll really be doing the engineering, but then he'll be sending me mixes, and we'll kind of go back and forth and talk about the kind of artistic approach and how much of what and all that stuff.
Well, as you say,
we never do it together, but he's mixing. Yeah.
That community that you have in your friends too is so important, because you can get that feedback, that objectivity from people. I mean, if ever I'm working on anything, I send it to people who hate me so that they will tell me the truth. Most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now when you're writing, because I know Shooter Jennings has recorded a bunch of your songs, right? You co-write with him, or do you ever just give him songs?
He's not much of a co-writer. He kind of tends to work on something, and then when it's done, he shows it to people.
Okay.
But so most of the songs that we've done that I wrote, I just wrote, and he liked them. So
that's great.
There were maybe 2 or 3 examples where he had the basic body of the song written, but then I came up with a cool riff or a cool instrumental part, or I said, hey, let's change these chords to over here, and then all of a sudden it becomes a new section. So most of the co-writes are like me with musical ideas that ends up changing the overall vibe of the song enough that it merits a co-write.
Right, so you're putting in a bridge, or you're changing the arrangement enough that it actually lifts the song.
Yeah.
Like
wow,
that's awesome.
There was one song he had years ago where he had a good verse and a good chorus, but he didn't like. It was called Southern Comfort. It was actually from the first record, and he was like, it was a great verse and it's a great chorus, but it kind of changes key. And he's like, I don't know how to get back from the chorus into the next verse. Yes. So I came up with this cool riff. And then it, whatever came, and that we kind of copied that and changed it to become this outro jam. So that it's still really his song, but it's nice to get a little co-writing and arranging and
it's fantastic.
Appreciated it that way and all that.
Yeah, because we know a lot of artists, of course, who do co-writes, but it's like, oh, you just contribute to the arrangement. That doesn't really count. So, here's a buyout. I mean, that happens. So it's great that you have that relationship with him. Ted, I'm going to ask you to go into the second set. As much as I want to chat to you more after your next few songs, let's chat a little more.
Okay. So should I maybe 2 more and then or 3 more? What would you like?
I'm happy to do whatever you want. As long as you want to hang around, Ted, I'm happy to hang around.
Okay. Then I'll do 3 more. How's that sound?
Fantastic.
All right, great. So I'm going to start out with another song from Walking Shoes. And this is actually a nice one I love to do. It's called This Old Guitar. And the last couple of years, as I've been becoming good friends with Emily and working on her record, she sang harmony on a bunch of Walking Shoes. And the next record, Down in the Den, that's going to come out. And so Emily is a real featured guest on this one. So Emily, this one's for you. It's called This Old Guitar. Doesn't seem so long ago, this old guitar was new. But I can fill 1,000 pages, the stories we've been through. All the lonely nights and teardrops, bad chords and busted elms, sounds of love and danger, broken hearts and sweet romance. This old guitar, it ain't done just yet. You play rock and roll, hard enough, blues is what you get. Now we've weathered all these years, every storm and scar, and you know I'm even older than this old guitar. She's got her share of scratches and even a blues or two. But when the finish has worn down, the bare wood will have to do. She knows just what I'm thinking, and she plays just what I feel. It's like there is a part of me made of wood and steel. This old guitar, it ain't done just yet. You play rock and roll, hard enough, blues is what you get. Now we've weathered all these years, every storm and scar, and you know I'm even older than this old guitar. This old guitar, it ain't done just yet. You play rock and roll, hard enough, blues is what you get. Yeah, we've weathered all these years, every storm and scar, and you know I'm even older than this old guitar. I said, you know I'm even older than this old guitar. This old guitar. I co-wrote that with a wonderful musician guy named Ed Tree, who lives maybe San Marino, but east of Pasadena and South Pasadena. And he's an incredible guy, an incredible musician. And we got together to write and just hang out and make some music. And we just started talking about it. He's got a pretty killer vintage guitar collection that he's collected over the years. And he really knows how to play them. I should say that too. So we had a great conversation about some of the guitars, and we started talking about how sometimes when you're traveling around and you're on stage and you're playing, you're especially if it's a solo show, you don't know anyone else there. And so you rely on your instrument to kind of get you through and to help you express what you want to express. And so your guitar ends up acting like an old friend and being there for you when you need it. So that was kind of the basic idea behind that one. This is another song kind of about traveling, and it's going to be on the new record, Down in the Den. This is actually the last record. Actually, the record was pretty much done. And then I wrote this song, and I loved it so much, I was like, it's got to be on the record. So we recorded it. And here it is. It's called Hobo Nickel. I got a hobo nickel, I made it myself. Shine it up nice and keep it on the shelf. It's up a tip in the air, tells me all I need to know. The heads I stay, it tells me means it's time I got to go. I got no guitar, I like it to strum. I know half of every song that's ever been sung. Gonna sit right down in the corner in the heart of town. When I start to play, the people come a gathering around. The east or west, I never look back. Tomorrow's just a day or so down the track. Traveling light is the life for me. If I spend my last dollar, I'll just get it for free. I got a freight train on track 21, and if it moves too slow, I'll use my thumb as I'm moving along. In a way I wanna roll. And if it don't come easy, then it's not the way I'm going to go. Yeah. I got a backpack that's hanging over my shoulder. Got everything I need when the night gets colder. Got a coat and a hat, a compass and a cup of joe. You got my hobo nickel and my feeling of the freedom of the road. It ain't easy, but it's easy to love. Anybody can join, but it's a mighty small club. Got no destination, no place to be, but it's an open invitation. Won't you travel with me? Stay at home and ride the railing like a hobo nickel. Heads or tails, you can live on love or chase that money down. It don't come easy, and then you know I'm traveling around. I said it's all going, and I'm gonna make the most of it now. I said that we're all going to the same party anyhow. All right. That's Hobo Nickel. I wrote that one with a good friend, Ryan Wright, lives in Nashville, Tennessee. And we've had mutual friends, and we've kind of liked each other's music and have met a bunch of times over the years. And we got together maybe in October or November. So just recently, this last year. That's kind of a brand new song. Awesome. I think I got time for one more song. Actually, I think I'll close with one that I wrote that we do with Shooter Jennings. Why not? All right. Yeah, so thanks all for enjoying. This is a song that it's called Steady at the Wheel. And it was a song from our first record we did with Shooter. It came out in 2005. And so it's on the Shooter album, Put the O Back in Country, and it's also on my first record, which is called North South, that came out that same year. And this was actually one of the hits from the Shooter album. So it was partially that this song was very well received. That helped me get out there and start touring my own as a songwriter and getting my music heard. So here it is. It's called Steady at the Wheel. Scattered through 100 towns, ashes of a house that's long been down. Dusk comes down and got the day. Swallow up time, don't let all the way. 0 to 60, it's the next big thing. Tell me it's a steal. Come on and drive all night. Ease the pain, don't you look away. Steady at the wheel. Said steady at the wheel. Try to sing a no familiar tone. Bloodshot words on an acetate roll. Black light troubadour, push on through. When heartbreak sits right next to you. Yeah. Yes, it does, baby. 0 to 60, it's the next big thing. Tell me it's a steal. Come on and drive all night. Ease the pain, don't you look away. Steady at the wheel. Say steady at the wheel. Yeah. Black light troubadour, push on through. Heartbreak sits right next to you. Devil on my shoulder, hellhound on my trail, but that's how we're gonna meet the horizon without fail. Yeah, yeah. I said until the 60s, the next big thing. Till me it's a steal. Drive all night, ease the pain, don't you look away. Steady at the wheel. Steady at the wheel. Ow, 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 ow. Ow, 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 ow. Ow, 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 ow. Ow, 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 ow. And there you go.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ted. So awesome. Steady at the Wheel. This is definitely a good Saturday night song. Steady at the Wheel.
Yeah.
Although many of us aren't out. So and this old guitar, I had not heard that song, but of course we all know and love Ed Tree. I can think of no better co-writer than Ed Tree.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, he is, and a great guitarist. I'm sure he really appreciates the shout out. And I apologize that sometimes we talk over each other. I think there's a delay. Saturday night, everyone's doing their friggin' Netflix, and it's taking up our bandwidth. So occasionally I feel like you finish talking and then, it doesn't always happen, but apologies for that, my friend.
My apologies too, and it's okay. Thank you for,
You might have grown up Irish Catholic too.
To do this.
And we just did it again. There's proof right there. So Ted, that was fantastic. And we do invite you sincerely to come on our Songs and Sit Downs shows in the future, but at least very soon for the Grammy opening ceremony. We would like to do that live if you're open for it.
Okay. Good.
Okay, I think it'd just be a great bit in the middle of our show to say, now we're going to go to Ted in the den and we're going to have our
We're gonna do
grand
it.
opening ceremony. Because
Awesome.
it should be celebrated, again and again.
Yeah.
Well, Ted Russell Kamp, thank you so much for being with us. Just a plug for your album. The finished album is down in the den and created in the den that we've been looking at all night, and that's going to be released in July.
And many instruments are all over it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're actually seeing where it all happened right now, and that's coming out in July. Do we have an exact date in July?
I think it's going to be July 24.
Okay, great.
And they're getting manufactured now.
Awesome.
So I may start doing some kind of pre-sale things where you can just kind of, you want to get the actual hard copy of the CD that you can maybe starting in June. So if you're enjoying it.
And of course, if you're interested in getting the album or doing a pre-sale, you can go right now to facebook.com/Ted Russell Kamp Band, I believe. Is that right, Ted?
Yeah, actually, there's the Ted Russell Kamp Band.
Okay.
Or just you could do facebook.com/Ted Russell Kamp.
Okay, fantastic.
To either one. And
your solo acoustic album, Solitaire, that's going to be released later this year. Is that right?
Yeah, that's actually the one. I don't know. Many of you, I'm sure, are music lovers, and many are actual musicians as well. But an interesting thing happens that when you're going to release a record, you have to kind of get it mixed and then do the artwork and then find a business team of some sort to help get it out. So often by the time you're releasing a record, it was done 6 or 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And by the time it gets to the street date, you could say, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So since I finished that one, I'm now doing the business for that to get it out. And I'm already working on another record, which will hopefully come out later this year.
Wow, because 11 is just not enough at this point in your career.
Yeah. Well, it's like you got to stay productive. Thankfully, I have a lot of good friends and friendships and good songs.
Yeah.
And especially now that we're all home, I'm doing a lot of, I'm producing a couple other records that I'm able to kind of do a lot of overdubs and mixing literally from this room.
Great.
And then I'm also spending a little time and working on some of my other songs.
And you can stay busy during this lockdown because you're not on the road and you have your den right there. So pretty amazing.
Yeah. Pretty
amazing. So we'll look out for that. We'll look out for a Solitaire that hopefully will be released before the end of the year.
I have a feeling it will be because it's
good.
It's been a labor of love, and part of the idea is to keep it simple.
Right, and you have allegedly you have tour dates coming up. You're going over to Finland. Well, we'll see.
We'll see if they're going to happen. I've got about 2/3 of what was going to be a 3-week long tour in October, November, going to Europe. I try to go to Europe every year for probably about a 3-week tour. So I have some dates in Finland, Holland, Sweden, a couple of days in England, and anyway, we'll see. Hopefully, we'll all be able to travel by then. I don't know. That tour might have to wait till next year, but we'll see.
Well, hopefully, and if not there, we will see you around town as soon as we're all be able to get together. We'll be coming to your gates and celebrating the releases of your multiple albums that are coming out this year. Thank you so much, Ted Russell Kamp. It's just been a pleasure listening to you. And
great meeting you through this, and it's an honor to be a guest. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And we're going to finish now with a video from one of Ted's songs. This is Heart Under Pressure. Thank you so much, Ted Russell Kamp.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Got a heart under pressure, and it doesn't know what to do. But that heart is a muscle, and it won't quit on you. You ain't never been so close, as close as you are now.
doing what it is you need to do. And that heart under pressure just might pull you through. You got a weight on your shoulder, trouble on your mind, and the nights are getting colder, and you hope that now's your time. You never felt as close as you do now, finding all the words you need to say. And that heart under pressure just might lead the way. You're looking for an answer and trying to find a sign. Your heart under pressure's doing time. When you're looking for a clue, just listen for the sound. And that heart won't miss a beat and let you down. These lives that you live with are such a heavy weight. But beneath them lies truth, and you hope it's not too late. And you never felt as close as you do now, being what it is you want to be. And that heart under pressure just might set you free. When you're looking for an answer and trying to find a sign, your heart under pressure's doing time. When you're looking for a clue, just listen for the sound. And that heart won't miss a beat and let you down. And that heart won't miss a beat and let you down. You got a heart under pressure, and it doesn't know what to do. But that heart is a muscle, and it won't quit on you.
That's Heart Under Pressure from our wonderful guest tonight, Ted Russell Kamp. And that's from Walking Shoes, his album Walking Shoes that came out last year. So do check that out. What a wonderful guest, along with Emily Zuzik. Wonderful people, wonderful performers. Very happy to have them on the show. You can check them out. Ted will be doing his virtual show that he does called We're Going to Make It, which I think is a very apt title. And that's going to be on Sunday and Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Pacific time. And you can check that out on facebook.com, Ted Russell Kamp Band. And of course, you can also check out Emily Zuzik, who's doing her Saturday night live Facebook shows. And you can check out her music page for that. Before we go, I'd just like to mention the tips one more time, which are shared with the artists. And as you can see, we've had some very high caliber artists tonight giving up their Saturday night to perform for us and be with us. And I very much enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed being with them. We're going to continue this series next month. Keep an eye out for what's happening next month. We're going to have Non-Duo, which is a great local LA-based duo, married couple, Paul and Marina. Always enjoy having them. And we'll also have another artist, which we will announce closer to the date. We do songs and sit-downs. I'm sitting here in this very spot tomorrow on Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time, and our guests will be Paul Zolo, who is legendary in these parts. He is a singer-songwriter in his own right. He also wrote several books, including Songwriters on Songwriting and Conversations with Tom Petty. He's going to be such an interesting guest, and he's been writing some new music, so we look forward to hearing a couple of songs from him. on Monday night. And also I'll be talking to Jessie Fisher, who is a Hollywood stunt performer, Cirque du Soleil performer. And, you know, last year she was doubling as Linda Hamilton in the new Terminator movie. And she's got so many different stories, and she's such a great conversationalist. And we're very much looking forward to chatting to her. And thank you especially for being with us tonight, our first of the seasons, since we're not doing the Cool House concerts, Sweet Sounds Around Town. And as I said, we'll be back, and the information on songs and sit downs Monday, 7 p.m. will be, was right there on your screen. And thank you so much. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for being with us. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you, JJ and Dolly. Thank you, Divine Realm Music. And again, thank you so much to our wonderful guests.